好，欢迎大家回到2022 Galaxy Summit。我们现在第3场的峰会正式开始。这一场的主题，我们将围绕在区块链 （Blockchain）。那我们看到去年全球在区块链的投资是增长了700%，总额达到了250亿美金的历史新高。其中呢，在 NFT 领域的投资更是增长了130倍。那我们看到区块链终于进入到主流市场，大家的话题也终于不再只是今天 Bitcoin 是涨了还是跌了，而是更关注区块链在我们的基础建设之上，到底会对生活产生什么样实质的改变。因此这一场的专题演讲，我们就请到了 Animoca Brands 的 Group President Evan 欧阳。Animoca Brands 可以说是在区块链游戏GameFi 领域的领头羊企业，他们旗下投资了超过150家的 NFT 还有 Metaverse 的公司，可以说是在 Web3 的生态系统当中最活跃也最有影响力的公司之一。今天我们就请到了 Evan 已经在现场了。Hi Evan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we saw Animoca just closed a new round back in January at $5 billion valuation, and with over 150 portfolio companies, you're definitely a power player in Web3 right now. So we look forward to your insight. The floor is yours.
Thanks for having me. So I'm going to share my screen right now. I know I have 20 minutes or so to share with you some of the things we have done. But again, I'm assuming that perhaps not everyone is familiar with Web3. So I'll just start there to talk about what is Web3. And our purpose and what we see in terms of opportunities. So we are in the third iteration of the internet, right? And Web 1.0 is back in the 90s when internet was sort of invented, and it was a static text kind of web, whereas read-only information, where it's pretty much companies giving you data on a one-way basis, right? A centralized kind of data control server database. Web 2.0 happened in about 2000, so middle of 2000s, where it's really driven by social media, right? The likes of Facebook, and then further driven by mobile commerce, right? Or mobile phones, smartphones like iPhones. When everybody has access to the internet via mobile phones, there's a lot more writing going on. So it becomes the reading and writing interactive type of a web at that time, right? It then becomes sort of an organization, then becomes platform. So the likes of Facebook, Google, et cetera, became platforms that become very dominant in the internet space, right? It's becomes a more, rather than sort of infrastructure being sort of like more sort of centralized servers, et cetera, it becomes cloud and mobile based, and it's still centralized in terms of control. In Web 3.0, which is where we're today, we're not talking about reading, writing, and owning. Now, this is the biggest thing that's happening in the third iteration of the internet, is that it's powered by the blockchain, right? And therefore, not only can you read and write, so you can read, you can compose, right? And you can also own the real assets on there because it's actually driven by the blockchain. And therefore, if you can own things, then you can actually draft virtual economies. Which then, rather than being platforms being dominant, it becomes networks, right? Or peer groups and communities becomes much more dominant, right? And the blockchain itself, the decentralized ledger, which is blockchain technology that underlies it, becomes the computer in and of itself, right? So the infrastructure is then sort of, right, even via cloud servers is sort of like, that's not the thing that's stored right now. It's covered on nodes, right? And the control becomes decentralized rather than centralized, right? And this is the most powerful thing that is going on right now. And yes, there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of euphoria around cryptocurrencies, NFTs, which is what Web3 is. But beyond the hype, this is what's real behind it, right? Now, we go back to sort of where we are in the Web 2.0. We are talking about a data value chain that has really, about collecting data, mining customer data, which then is made sense out of that data, and then turns into useful intelligence. But it's sort of collected for free, right? And it then becomes monetized on the right side, which means targeted advertising becomes sold to you. the platforms and utilize it and sells it back to you. You don't get rewarded as a user other than sort of publishing rights that you have and likes that you earn as a result of publishing and social interactions, and you get it in return of targeted advertising and goods and services. Now, this also has led itself to social commerce and the sort of creators economy, like YouTubers, etc., putting videos on, or TikTok, etc., and you can earn a living out of it, right? But it's still under platform rules. But most of the time, you don't really own your data. Now, we have to talk a bit about, what is the most valuable resource in the world right now. Now, in the early parts of the 20th century, during the Industrial Revolution, certainly oil, right? In this Economist magazine's cover, it's really talking about how the data giants have replaced the oil companies as the most powerful companies in the world. So data is really what it is today, what oil was in the past. But this data right now is being mined for free, right? Much like how oil was mined for free in the past as well. So what we are heading into is at that point in time, you individuals are creating data, all of us, from the time we wake up in the morning to the time we put down our phone at night. We're creating data. This information, this data is not useful to us as an individual, but if it's combined into, by let's say Facebook or Google, with other parties that created, other people who create information, data as well, it becomes information, right? Once you link it together, it becomes knowledge, and that is what we call big data. And the Facebook would mine it and sell it to other people. So they sell your data for free, and then they don't actually allow you to monetize on the back of that, right? Which is what is creating what we call the data monopolies of today. So you have big platforms fighting with each other, like the Google, the Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, and then in this part of the world, Tencent, Alibaba, etc., right? And they're all fighting for customer data, and they never share data, right? So you cannot log into Facebook and therefore get access to Google, and you go into Google and access Facebook stuff, or go into Google and access Microsoft. It's all separate logins because you have all these logins over your phones, your passwords you remember, because everybody is in the data silo. Now, this is what Web3 is promising, is that it's not going to be like this anymore because we're allowing you to own data. Now, but some would say that, given that we still, a creator's economy is still created. Let's say on YouTube, you are actually still allowed to monetize the content that you put on. Now, how does that work, though, if you really look at it? So YouTube does say that you retain the ownership rights in your content, but we do require you to grant certain rights to other users. So it says here that by providing certain content or service, you grant YouTube a worldwide, non-exclusive, royalty-free, sub-licensable, and transferable license to use the content, right? Including rights to reproduce, distribute, prepare derivative works, etc. And you also grant that license to other users, which actually says that you retain ownership rights, but you actually don't own them, right? So this is the issue, right? With digital asset ownership right now, is that it's not owned. But in terms of where we are, when we talk about the metaverse, for instance, we talk about Web3 versus what is the metaverse, which is not the same thing, right? Again, when we talk about Web3, we're talking about third iteration of the internet, right? If we talk about metaverse, it's really about a virtual digital space, which allows users to do many things. Like it can be AR, VR, etc., but it's not powered necessarily by the blockchain, right? So metaverses can be Web 2 or Web 3, but Web 3 is really only about blockchain, right? So there's a big difference, and I would like everyone to remember that. People get confused by it a lot because Facebook changed its name to Meta, gives rise to the metaverse. But what we're now talking about in terms of cryptocurrencies and NFTs is all powered by Web3 and the blockchain. So when we talk about the metaverse, it's not really the same thing, because the metaverse does not necessarily allow digital asset ownership. Only if it's powered by blockchain, then it is a true metaverse in our sense, right? Now, let's talk about sort of what is the traditional transactions that take place in under traditional financial system. You need, when you send money, you need to go through a centralized authority, and then it goes into the receiver's bank. In a decentralized financial system, you process it through your own personal computer. It gets validated by a node, and then it sits on all the decentralized ledger. And then because this transaction is then sitting on everybody's computer, it becomes unhackable, right? So the questions whether or not a centralized authority is needed in the first place, because do we really trust financial institutions? Some people believe that, especially millennials, they do not. And what happens with a blockchain is that when a transaction is requested, a block is created, a block is sent to every node of a network, and the proof is then sits on every single part of a computer. Therefore, it's secure, immutable, it's distributed, timestamped, it's auditable, meaning every single transaction that has ever taken place under that blockchain is auditable, traced back, and is anonymous, right? So this is a very, very powerful technology, right? So whereas in Web 1.0 and 2.0, data is copied, now you're actually talking about blockchain where ownership is actually transferred, and therefore you're going to what we call the internet of value. Rather than sort of information driven, we're now values driven, because you can now say that the sword that you bought, the car that you bought in the game can be transferable and it can be traded because of the blockchain. Now, so, just a schematic about sort of Web 1.0 is just username and password. Web 2.0, you're signing up through a platform. You see that all the time. Web 3 is decentralized and permissionless. All you do is connect your wallet, and you don't have to sign anything else up, right? And that's the promise of Web 3. And when we talk about true digital ownership, it really means composability of assets, right? In that sense, if you were to buy a virtual car, you would be able to change the color of that car, change the wheels, change seats, etc. And you can put it on platforms without any permission, like Nifty Gateway, Maker's Place, OpenSea, Wax, all that. You can actually sell your digital goods within that platform. To when you compose it, you may create more value from a permissionless basis, buy or sell. Right now, you cannot do that. Now, another thing that is happening today with respect to traditional games that we look at, if you have an asset in, let's say, a certain game, like game A, like a sword, you obviously cannot take that sword out and put it in a game B, right? Because a game right now or a certain metaverse is not interoperable with the next one because it's not made that way. It's closed loop system. Even if you're bored of a game or the game shuts down and that's it, right? Your assets are gone with it. So you don't actually own the assets, right? You actually just rent it in a lot of ways. Now, in the centralized network, however, especially given what Animoca is doing, we are facilitating ownership of assets, meaning that the asset that you own could be taken across different games and have utility. And you can buy, sell without any of our permission, and therefore it's truly yours because every asset is written into the decentralized ledger, is proven, is secure, is immutable, and therefore it's yours to trade. And that enables what we have in terms of internet of value today. Now, I'll skip that for a moment, and let me just talk about Animoca brands for a second. So. We are a very fast-growing company. We since about 2017 or so, we have turned ourselves into the digital ownership space, and now one of the fastest-growing companies. We began in we began as a sort of a mobile app app store type company that built games. In 2018 or so, right, we started distributing CryptoKitties, and then we discovered that digital asset ownership is really, people really go after it because we're selling these digital cats for the expensive ones, we're going for over $100,000. So thereafter, we believe that this is a next big thing, and we acquired Sandbox. We made a lot of investments in different things. We built F1 Delta Time and sort of other games, and we make a lot of deals up to 2021. And then throughout 2021 or so, we keep making investments and building our own metaverses and games, up to about 180 or so investments we've made over the past couple of years, with most of them actually made over the past year alone. And we have, as per the introduction, we just raised $359 million at pre-money valuation 5.8 billion. Sorry, post-money valuation 5.8 billion. So we're growing very fast because the space is growing very fast. And in spite of that, we'll say that the market is still very nascent today. We're a company that's headquartered in Hong Kong, but we are a global company, and we actually operate in multi-headquartered, right? So we have assets all over the globe, and we operate globally. And this is how the space is. And there's no reason to believe that we're only in Asia. We have users, and we have teams everywhere in the world. And these are some of our business units, to casual gaming like Gamey, and collectibles like Quid, to games like Rev and the Sandbox is very famous metaverse that we have. Blowfish and Way are sort of the AAA games that we have. So these are the majority assets that we have. And in terms of what we do, we do operations, right, which is what we just talked about on all the assets around me. And also on top of my screen about all the majority assets that we have. And we also invest, right? And the way we invest is that we actually we invest along the entire ecosystem, which include gaming, metaverse, guilds, marketplaces, DeFi, infrastructure, wallets, etc. What we want to do is to innovate along that space and to spur on the development of Web3 industry, which is what we do. And what we do with the companies is that we would try to innovate by inserting what we call the blockchain brain into the know-how of this ecosystem so that the ecosystem can grow. So we are very unique in the sense that we both operate, and we also invest at the same time. So we use our capital to influence the space to grow as part of our mission. And just to, again, illustrate the point of all these companies going into the metaverse and how this is all being talked about, Meta, obviously Facebook changed its name, Microsoft is going into it, Roblox itself is a metaverse, and Fortnite is a metaverse. But we just have to understand one thing, right? In terms of platform, is Facebook's platform, ownership is Facebook's, composability within Facebook's rules, interoperability unlikely. You cannot take a Meta asset or Facebook asset and put it into Microsoft, for example. Tradability, maybe, but it's very, again, hard to imagine that there's a platform that sits outside of Meta that will allow you to monetize. So we don't believe this type of metaverse is really what we call, this is certainly not Web3. Facebook has obviously announced its willingness to maybe build open. We believe that ultimately what it is today is that we will see a built open based on a Web3 type of ecosystem that's emerging, and will force these data giants to build open as well, which is the power of what we see in the Web3 space. So we also have a purpose in what we do. We believe that ultimately we are a commercial entity, but we do not focus only on shareholder value, creation of shareholder value. It is important, but our purpose is even more important, because what we want to do is build an open Web 3.0 ecosystem, not as something that is closed, not as something that is, again, dominated by data giants. We don't seek to dominate the space. We seek to facilitate the space. That's why we will invest into games or assets that might seem to be in competition to us, but we rather see everybody growing. And we want to positively reward how our next generation will live and work around the metaverse. We want to reward creativity and time spent via meaningful jobs, living and working in the metaverse, because we have, let's say in Sandbox, you can build houses, you can compose games, and you can get meaningful jobs within that, right? There's also play to earn, right? Which is that if you spend time in it, you're rewarded, and the currencies that you earn because you're contributing to the community. You will also be able to monetize, turn that into fiat, etc., so that you could actually make a living out of it, right? And even more importantly, we want to deliver shared value, right? So we're elevating not only shareholder value in the traditional sense, but also community and social value. And this point is very important because you see a lot of crypto projects right now, or NFT projects, that is really around, maybe celebrities, maybe around sort of like making quick money, right? But that's not how it has. That's not how we should be, right? It really should be around how do we create great community so that they interact with one another, and we just take a part of the community in which we create, right? But of course, we want to do the above in a sustainable manner. Now, I would say that the impact of what we've created has gone sort of global, right? This is even back in the days, and well, we're still in it, right, in terms of COVID. But back in the times we were tracking this in the Philippines and also in Indonesia and other emerging markets right now, the play-to-earn space has gone to the point where people are earning real wages, right? So in the Philippines, because people were playing this game, Axie Infinity, they're still playing it in droves. There are more crypto wallets in the Philippines than there are credit cards right now. And people can play games and earn money at the same time, and they're able to replace their jobs in a way that, during COVID, maybe being an Uber driver or being, doing other things that are physical are no longer available. So they actually went to play games and earn money, right? This is amazing in the way they look at this, right? So it's already transforming the space. So again, I'll wrap up with this. The virtual goods market has grown very, very significantly, right? So it's already, well over 100 billion. And it's you can say that 2021 has been the year of the NFT and perhaps crypto a little bit, right? It's still very, very early at the beginning, right? Again, if we focus a lot more, less on the FOMO about the fear of missing out, but focus on what's real and what's being created, it's certainly a very, very exciting market. And I urge all of you to look into the space and perhaps participate in it. That's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Evan.